All right, there we are. Once again, everybody, welcome to this week's masterclass. As always, go ahead. If you're here with us live, pull up the Q&A tab. And if you're on the replay, as you know, we'll send out the replay tomorrow morning. That way you have access. You can watch it in 1.5, 2x speed. And of course, setting your homework at any time. We prefer sooner than later if you'd like to get feedback. But more importantly, take some notes during the class, whether it's in the Q&A tab, Google Doc, Notepad, whatever works best for you. But let's get into this week's class. And also, for those of you that have some team members that aren't quite up to the masterclass learning, we are going to be doing at least 1 or 2 free Zooms. We're going to check our schedules, and that way we can kind of get some good information, do some skill work for everybody that's not in the masterclass as well. So check your email, make sure to keep an eye on next week's schedule. All right, let's get into the poll this week. And I'll go ahead and end the poll. It's off of your screen. And we asked, out of these 4, if we know what to do, but we don't, why is it? And of course, the big one with 58%, and one I thought would win as well, is fear that it won't work out. Whether it worked out to someone's building a relationship, making that, I don't want it to be weird next time I see them, or what if they say no? Does it matter if it's a stranger or somebody we know? And behind that, 32% is we can avoid failure by not trying. 100% accurate on that one. And of course, just with both under 5%, 5 and 6% here is the top and bottom, zero energy and don't know why we don't do it. Hey, we're totally clueless on that aspect. But the big one is, of course, fear, which is extremely common. I thought it'd be more than 58%, but I can see where avoiding failure by not trying is just as easy. Don't even have to worry about fear if you don't have to do anything. So either way, thanks everybody so much for interacting throughout the poll. I'm going to pull up the Q&A tab if you haven't already. And with that, Tom, I will throw it over to you.
Okay, so let's take a quick look at these answers. And zero energy. I'm sure there's an MLM product for energy, or maybe coffee or something for more energy. Fear it won't work out. Here's something strange about this. This fear that it won't work out, this is before the event even happens. So the event hasn't happened and we already feel bad already. So think about that. This is all in our mind because the event hasn't happened yet. C, we can avoid failure by not trying. That is usually the solution to us to avoid fear. People say, well, if I don't try, I'll never be a failure. And that's one way to keep my self-image going. And some people say, well, I just don't know why. I want to so bad. I have this vision board and everything. It's just not working for me. But fear it won't work out. Fear before the event. That is the key that we're going to be talking about in today's masterclass. But first of all, let's warm up our muscles and see how much we've learned so far in our master classes. Here's 2 messages I've got this week. I get a lot of messages. Yes, people pitch me every day. And I get messages, join my company, I'm looking for just 5 people. I'm limited to 5 in your area, those messages. So here's a question. What could we do to make the following message better? So I want you to think, all right, what's good about it? What's bad about it? So we're looking for your comments. And maybe you just want to point out that this message is bad for here, and here, or maybe this is what I would do to make it better. So for those driving in the car, I'm going to read the message to you now. And the message that came to me was, I am looking to expand my business to Asia, especially Thailand and the Philippines. Would you happen to know anyone who would be interested in opening a new country with an American company that has great products, high customer retention rate, and the company is in the phase where rapid growth is just starting? Okay, so that's the message. Here's the test. In the Q&A, what's your feelings about this? Where do you think this might have gone wrong? Because obviously I didn't answer them. In the Q&A, what do you think? What could they have said to improve this? You say, all right, so I'm looking to expand my business. Would you happen to know anyone? Because, high customer retention rate, because they all do. And this company's in the phase of rapid growth just starting. Amazingly, that's 100% of all companies. So, Keith, I'm going to turn over to you, and let's see why this message failed with me. Maybe it worked with everybody else, but I doubt it. But why was this out of the blue, cold message to somebody, they didn't know? Why didn't it click? So, Keith, what we have here for some reasons?
All right, I went ahead and put it back up on the screen just because it's not that memorable, just in case people want to, everything from starting off, there's no report. They didn't even bother to ask, and it just kind of seems like a cut and paste, obviously. Too wordy, obvious there as well. It looks like, good point there. There's no question until the absolute very end, assuming they made it that far. Some people would say, hey, let's do the indirect approach. Who do you know type of thing. Good, bad, as well as there. Make it shorter. Definitely use a would it be okay somewhere in there. Sounds like all the others. Yeah, definitely. They definitely copy and pasted it from basically any other spam message that you get. Too long, too much information. Really not a catch to attention. Should be a problem to solve. Obviously, there. It's all about them. Very good point. No benefits for you. Very similar. We're all thinking on the same page here. More no rapport. What's in it for me? Remove the sales pitch. Absolutely nothing personal. So very similar to rapport there as well. So we're all on the same page. It's not good.
I like Francis's comment. There's no benefits to you. And when I look at this message, as being a selfish human individual, I'm thinking, what's in it for me? There's no reward. Why should I go out of my way to give a name of my friend to somebody I don't know based upon this message? So you say, okay, let's do one more just to warm up our muscles, because we're going to have to critique our team member when they come up with things like this. We're going to have to tell them, wait a minute, let's take a look at how to make it better. So here's another message from this week, and I'll read it for those that are driving. I just joined a company that's changing all that for the better, and over 200,000 people have already got on board from over 80 countries since our pre-launch on December 2022, less than 6 months ago. Emoji, 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 emoji. Please take a no obligation tour of my website, ... So based upon this message, what is your critique? What was good? What was bad? What would you change? Or maybe you might say, I just never sent out cold solicitations like this. So in the Q&A, here's your chance. What would you do about this message? Because this has to be a wonderful company. It's changing all that, whatever all that is, for the better. I have no idea what all that for the better could be. And it's a no obligation tour of my website because, of course, everybody knows that we all have time to look at every human website that's on the internet. So what would your suggestion be? What's good about it? What's bad about it? And you might say, well, it's just had a lot of emojis. Maybe that's what's going to really trigger it to work. So, Keith, what do we have here for feedback from our masterclass?
Definitely not enough info. Very vague. It's a good point as well. 100% sales alarm. Absolutely. There's nothing good whatsoever. Just blanket facts. I guess that would be one way of saying it as well. Again, no benefits. Very feature number. I mean, social proof maybe, but nobody really cares. It's all about me. Someone said, doing all caps is obnoxious. Absolutely. Even if it's just one or two words, don't do it. Unprofessional. 100% there. And same run of the old mill message. Congratulations. Good for you. So nobody's fallen into the trap. So that's always a good thing. So keep them coming in.
Now, I do want to mention these could be perfectly good companies, and these could be perfectly good sponsors. It's just this particular solicitation, you say, what's missing? How can we make it better? Our team are constantly going to go out and talk to people, and as a sponsor, we want to help them get better. So we should look at things like this and just put our creativity together and say, all right, what can we do to make this better? Anyway, I didn't take the no obligation tour of somebody's personal website because from what I understand, there's about 1 billion websites on the internet. You really can't take a tour of all of them. So let's move on. Now we have our muscles warmed up, and let's take a look at the number one program in the human mind is survival. Now, this is important. You and I, the battlefield is in our prospect's mind. You and I, our whole work area is inside the mind of the prospect, which what we're trying to do is get our message inside of their mind. And you say, well, how do I do it? My mind didn't come with an owner's manual. So the more we understand about our brain, it will tell us why we're motivated, why we don't motivate, why we have certain feelings, certain emotions. Here's what amazes me. We all have a mind. It's exactly what we have to use every day. And nobody bothers to try to learn about their mind and how it works. Just because there's no operating manual when we're born, that of course we couldn't read then anyway, why should we go through our whole life just being a victim of having no idea why our mind is messing with us? So the number one program of the human mind is survival. If we just know that one program, it will explain a whole lot of what happens in real life instead of us scratching our heads. So the brain says, I can't see outside. All I do is get some feedback, some electrical signals from the eyes or the ears or whatever, and I kind of construct kind of a vision inside of my head. I'm trying to figure out what happens on the outside of the skull. But the brain knows this. If it doesn't keep us alive, nothing else matters. So the bottom line is the brain says, don't take chances, be safe. If this organism dies, I haven't done my job and I'm going to expire right along with it. So if you have that in mind, that's why people do most of the things they do, because of that survival program. Now, they don't know what's running in their mind, but it is absolutely dominating all their decisions about joining our business or giving us appointments or talking to us. Is dominating those decisions. So we need to be aware of this. So to do this, the next step is our minds are prediction machines. Our mind says, I got to predict what's going to happen in the near future. You know, if I hear rustling in the bushes, I got to predict that could be a tiger or a lion getting ready to jump out and eat us. So if I'm able to predict what's going to happen in the very near future, like in the next few seconds, I can protect myself from something bad. So the mind is taking all the input that we have, plus all of our past programs, and trying to kind of put together like I'm going to see the future. So when I'm there, I won't be surprised, make a bad decision, and die. So if the mind is a prediction machine, let's do some examples on this. It'll make a lot more sense. So what we're going to do is go play some tennis. All right, so in tennis, there's a person on the other side of the net with a tennis racket, and they're going to hit the ball. Now, when that person hits the ball, we don't go over to that person where he hit the ball. No, what we do, we predict, we try to guess where that tennis ball will land on our side of the court and be there when it lands so we can hit it back. So what our mind does is calculate, well, they hit it. So in the next, half a second, it's going to be traveling across the net at that angle. And it's going to be over there. So we need to run over there and get our racket ready. The mind is predicting all the time. That's its job. You say, okay, I kind of got it. So I don't run to where the tennis ball is being hit. I run to where I think it is. There's a famous hockey player named Wayne Gretzky, and he says, I don't skate to the puck. I skate to where the puck is going to be. And that's what made him great. Everybody else is skating toward the hockey puck, but he knew where it's going to be bouncing or being hit next, and he'd be there all alone to take the puck and go in and score some goals. Here's another example. We're walking down the street, and our mind sees that there's some steps ahead, a little stairway or something. So do we continue walking and then we trip on the steps and, smash our face into the steps and lose our teeth? No, we don't. Our mind sees there's steps ahead, and the mind says, okay, I predict that these steps are coming up. And if we continue walking at our current rate, we're going to trip on those, smash your face. Could be deadly. We don't want to do that. So when we get close to those steps, I'm going to do this. I'm going to command the foot to lift up a whole lot higher to go on that step. I predict that the foot has to go so high to be able to get on that step and change how we're walking. That's the mind working automatically. Now, we don't think about it, but it's all happening behind the scenes. So we are planning for what happens next. Let's do another one. Anybody here ever get a flu shot? Now, some people are okay with injections from needles. Some people aren't. So you see the nurse there. She has this giant needle getting ready to give us a shot. Do we tense up and make our muscles really tight before that flu shot goes in? And we're already predicting that we're not going to like it. We're going to respond. It's going to hurt. We're wincing in our face before the needle has even touched our skin. So we are reacting to a prediction that's going to happen in the future. You say, okay, so I kind of get it. The brain is thinking way ahead. It's just planning ahead for us. You say, okay, got that. Here's one more example. Let's talk about children. If you ever had a small child, 1 or 2, or even 3 years old, there's this old toy. I had it when I was young, so it's got to be really old. Called Jack in a Box, and you crank it and it plays the music. And toward the end, as a surprise, this little hand puppet jumps up out of the box. And children love this because they anticipate what's going to happen. They know it's coming. They know it's coming. They're predicting it's going to happen. And when the Jack in the Box jumps out of the box, they laugh and they giggle and they want you to do it over and over again. This is a hardcore program to anticipate the future, predict what's going to happen. Babies have it from age 1 or 2 and 3. It's in the brain of not only us, our prospects, and our team members, but we have it too. So once we understand that our mind is prediction machines, and we're anticipate what's going to happen to protect ourselves, that will explain why we are fearful, because maybe there's some bad experience in the past and we say, man, I don't want that to happen again. And that causes our mind to seize up and says, man, we don't want to take action. So here's where it kind of goes wrong. Our actions don't come from logic. Our actions come from emotion. So unfortunately for accountants and engineers, we believe that if people have the data, they're going to make a decision. Nothing could be further from the truth. Actions come from emotions. So if you're doing a data-rich presentation showing compensation plan and research reports and facts about the company and percentage growth, none of this is really making any difference for the decision. The decision is going to come from their internal programs that's going to create an emotion, and emotion is what triggers action. Without emotion, there is no action. There's a man named Phineas Gage, 1848. He was building a railroad, and a spike went through his head, and it damaged a part of his brain where the emotion comes from. So he had no emotion after that. He only had logic. And for the rest of his life, he was unable to make even the simplest decision, like which food on his plate to eat first. He couldn't do it because the emotional part of his brain was damaged. Decisions come from emotion. Now, logic, I don't know, it's maybe for entertainment, but the way our brains are set up, it's set up for emotion, not for facts, data, and mathematics. So let's do an example here. Ice cream. Now, the logic is ice cream has mega sugar calories, saturated fat, maybe dairy that we're allergic to, whatever. So the logic is don't eat ice cream. But what's the emotion? The emotion is we're reaching for a bigger spoon. And why is it? Why do we have this emotion? Because we are predicting a very pleasant experience when the ice cream touches the inside of our mouth and we have the taste and the sugar rush. A whole lot of chemicals are going to be released in our brain. We love ice cream. So there's a picture of me, a little self-portrait there in front of ice cream with the big spoon. And the point is, the emotion overcomes, because nobody logically will eat ice cream. It doesn't make sense. But emotionally, does ice cream sell? Even fat people run after ice cream trucks. Fat people, because of the emotion, will take action and actually jog after an ice cream truck. Think about that. Emotion is super powerful. So we think, all right, emotions make decisions. And I'm making a decision, maybe don't talk to people. I'm fear of approaching people, or I make a decision to buy something. Let's take a look a little bit deeper. Here's the next question. If actions come from emotions, which we've just seen, then what triggers our emotions? And what triggers the emotions of our prospects? And the answer is our subconscious mind programs. We have hardcore programs like anticipation. Remember the Jack in the Box? Survival. These programs trigger emotions, which trigger the actual end action. So if action if people take an action on something, to buy, to join, to talk to people, to make a list, if it doesn't come from logic, it has to come from these subconscious mind programs to trigger an emotion so that it happens. And this was one of the hardest lessons for me, that I didn't have to logically prove the business. I had to talk to the part of their mind that had an emotional reason for doing the business, which would probably be, in many cases, just solving their problems, because problems are very emotional. Said, okay, so what program are we talking about now because of fear of talking to prospects, fear of making lists, fear of doing follow-ups? We have a hardwired program called expectations. Our expectation program is, remember, we're predicting the future. We're just creating a word picture, a little movie inside of our mind of what's going to happen next. You know, what's going to happen next is going to give us a bad emotional response. Well, we ain't doing it. So our brain makes decisions for actions, not on the logical facts, but on these subconscious mind programs that are looking for what's going to be the expected outcome of our action. Let's see how this works in real life. So let's cross a busy street. On the left is a wall of cars coming at us pretty fast. So we have a choice of continue walking across the street or to wait until all the cars pass. So what would we naturally do? We're thinking, well, I don't want to be flat as a pancake. If I cross the street now, I'll probably die. And our subconscious mind says we got to keep you alive. So based upon the anticipated outcome, our subconscious mind will give us a command, don't cross the street, stay right there. And you might say, well, logically, I think I can slip in between a couple of those cars. I have like a 45% chance of making it. It doesn't matter. The emotions come from the subconscious mind program to survive. It's not going to happen because the expected outcome, the anticipation of the outcome is not good. It starts to make sense. Okay, so let's try this one. Ice cream. What's the expected outcome of eating ice cream? So, well, the expected outcome is going to taste sweet. We're going to get a sugar buzz. It's going to taste like awesome. All kind of chemicals are going to be released in our brain from the sugar. It's going to be great. I'm all for it. Very few people turn down ice cream. If they do, they must have some other emotional program that overcomes this. But for me, I'm all in on ice cream because I like the expected outcome. So let's make this work for us. All right. If we got rejected before, we went and talked to somebody, got rejected, and had a bad experience, then our subconscious mind is going to say, what is the expected outcome of our next prospecting attempt? The subconscious mind says, all right, last time we were humiliated, we were rejected, we were turned down, we got embarrassed, we felt bad, our face got flush. It's one of the worst feelings ever. We just felt really down, we felt stupid. So if we do the same thing again, this is probably going to happen. That's our expectation. It's going to be hard to pick up the phone. The phone's going to weigh, 6,000 pounds. It's going to be hard to attempt to talk to that next prospect because our mind is saying the expected, anticipated outcome is going to be bad. And that's going to command us to stop the action of approaching them. Here's another example. Let's say we started our business and we were scared to invest $100 or $500, whatever investment we could start in our business. We had a really bad feeling about it, but we overcame it and we joined. But the next time we talk to somebody, because we had that bad feeling, we're going to lack self-confidence. We're going to say, well, others will have the same feeling I did, that it's going to be risky. I don't want to do it. Losing money, or what if this doesn't work out? And because of these feelings, we anticipate a future event of them saying, oh, I don't want to invest that money. And because we anticipate that event, guess what? We won't do it. So this is playing in the background all the time. And this explains why it's so hard to get motivated, because we already have the emotions working against us, cause us to take the action of not doing anything. So here's the situation. We may not be able to change the expectation. Our mind says, don't lie to me. Don't tell me it's going to all work out. Don't tell me to be brave or courageous. Don't do that. Because I know, because I've kept track of previous experiences. And previous experiences, man, they treated you like garbage. And we felt bad. And we felt insufficient, and it ruined our self-image, and everything was bad. So based upon our previous experiences, no way. We expect really bad things if we continue doing this. Plus, we have this internal program saying, survive. Don't do stuff that's going to get you thrown out of the tribe. Don't do stuff that's going to get you humiliated. So we can't change the expectation. You say, well, if I can't change the expectation because of what's happened, then what am I going to do? And here's the answer. We can't change the expectation, but we can change the activity, because a different activity could have a different expectation or outcome. You say, okay, well, that makes sense. But, the activity is I got to call people or talk to them or close people or make a list. Well, change the activity, we'll get a different outcome, and that way we won't have their mind working against us. And you say, well, what do you mean by change? Well, it could be something as little as changing what we say. Here's an example. Man's on a date, and he says to his date, when I look in your eyes, time stands still. When a man says that, what is the expected outcome? Well, based upon previous dates or previous engagement with other women, he thinks they're probably going to say, that was romantic, that was nice, that was polite, I feel good. So the expected outcome is good. You say, well, so of course I'd say that. There's nothing wrong with it. I don't have anything working against me. Now, let's go on that same date. When the man says this to his date, your face would stop a clock. Now, that's an insult. That's saying that you are so ugly that even clocks would stop in your presence. Terrible insult. So if a man said that, what would be the expected outcome? Maybe his date would slap him in the face, get up and leave, or say some bad words or dump him. That would be the expected outcome. So chances are we're not going to say that. So you say, wait a minute. I could be on a date, but say two different things. Why don't I pick the activity that's going to be pleasant? And the answer is that's what we do naturally. So here's the next step. What we have to do is change the activity. We can't change the expected outcome of what we've done in the past, but we can change to a new activity that will get a different result or a different expected outcome. So here's the question. What current activities are we doing right now that have expected negative outcomes? So think about it. What are we doing right now that has expected negative outcomes? And I bet that would mean we're not doing it very much anymore because we don't like that negative outcome. So here's a couple examples of current activities that have negative outcomes for our new people. Prospecting. Because they approach their relatives by saying, I have a ground floor opportunity with the fastest growing company, and the company founder walks on water when it's frozen, and we've grown 13.4% over the last month compounded. And because they said that, they had some bad experiences. So now when they go out prospecting, based on those words, which is the only words they know, they expect to get negative feedback, so they don't do it. How about calling for phone appointments? Would you please give me an appointment? I want to come over and give you a presentation. Yeah, there's that presentation word again. And I just need 1 hour of your time. 1 hour of my time? I can't even give you 3 minutes because I want to get back on TikTok. Or how about closing? This one, I avoided closing for years because I had prediction of negative outcomes. You know, closing as well. Would you please join? Don't you think it's good? Well, do you want to try it now? Based upon those closes, I probably got no's, and no's. And I built up a really bad feeling about closing because my mind is predicting an unsuccessful event is going to happen next. So in the Q&A, here's what I'm going to ask. We've talked about prospecting, calling for appointments, and closing. What other current activities are we doing right now that trigger negative expectations in our mind? And you're saying, well, I have some current activities that I'm not doing at the moment because they trigger negative expectations in my mind. That could be accurate. So what are we doing right now that we hate, that we have to try to force ourselves to do, that we have to twist our arms, that it's painful, we have bad feelings? What are the things that we do right now that we maybe should be doing, but we're not? We're holding back because all this negativity is building up inside of our mind. And I know one of the first things that come to mind is follow-up. People say, I hate to follow up. You say, oh, yeah, Francis here said follow up. And Carol says phone calls. You know, I have to say that cold calling is probably one of the most scary things for me. I have really bad results with it in the past, so I have these negative programs. So Keith, what else we have are some things that we do that we absolutely hate because our mind is predicting a bad outcome.
Oh, yeah, definitely more phone calls. Follow-ups, some people talking to their family. It's pretty funny there. Okay, yes, a lot of times people call and 100% go to voicemail. Yeah, very common as well. So you're, well, why am I even calling her? What message can I leave? And obviously we can help you out on the setting appointments there as well. Let's see here. More follow-up, pretty much any phone call. So yeah, it's a big fear of the phone, even before when people would answer. I can see there's always been a fear of the phone. But yeah, keep them coming in and back over to you.
So this explains why our brains will keep us from doing this. All right, so this, well, here's what's next. This is why our traditional motivation techniques don't work. You can go and try all these techniques. I'll read a few of them, and we'll see, whoa, they won't work because it doesn't address the real issue, which is negative predictions or expectations in our human mind. So here are some traditional motivational things that people have done to try to overcome their fears. You know, walk across burning coals, chant affirmations, sing the company song. They lie to their subconscious mind. They pretend not to care what others think. But the subconscious mind does care what other people think. So let's do a couple more. They tell themselves, I just need to be positive. Or I'll drink 8 cups of coffee to get a caffeine buzz, and then I'll try calling people or following up. Or they grit their teeth and then they go into the abyss and try to make this thing happen. It doesn't. They read motivational quotes. They put gold foil on their vision boards. People try everything when all they really have to do is say, all right, this activity has a negative expectation. I can't change that. My mind's already figured that out. So what I have to do is change it to a different activity that doesn't have a negative expectation. So here it is. If we change the activity to an activity that has a positive expected outcome, we win. So don't try to pump up and motivate the team if they're not acting because they have that expectation. Try to find an activity they can do where they think, well, if I do this, it'll probably be okay. I will win. So how are we going to find these activities? So here's some questions from last week. See if anybody remembers them. Question number 1 was, what do I love doing? If we love doing something, it's probably because we've been getting positive feedback on it all the time. Question number 2 is, when I find out what I love to do, how can I make this an activity in my business? Because I'll do it automatically. I don't need any motivation or any push to do it because I'll just love doing it. And question number 3 is, if I do this fun activity every day, what will my result be in the future? Think about it. We just want to change the future by doing something we enjoy. So, I don't know, you can attempt to do all those other ways of traditionally motivating ourselves, but the easiest way is by figuring out a different activity, a different angle to go at, where the expectation is positive. Then there's no problem to do it. So here it is again. The easiest way to change an activity or expectation is to change our intention. You say, well, I can still do the activity, but maybe I can kind of change what I expect to happen or what I want to point them toward. So let's do an example. Number 1, my intention is to get an appointment. So we call people and how's that going to go? I got to get an appointment. That's going to be a win, lose, live, die. It's not going to be good because it probably went bad in the past. But what if our intention was to simply give a benefit and then give people permission to ask for more if they're interested? Which one of these two will have a better expected outcome? And you say, well, if I just give people benefits, they're going to enjoy that. There's nothing wrong with that. It's going to be easier to do. So instead of trying to get appointments, what we're going to do is just give people benefits and allow them permission to ask us for more if it feels good. So here's how that particular icebreaker works. We give them a benefit and then a permission statement. And it would go like this. I got a new plan to fire my boss. Benefit. Would you like to know my plan? Permission statement. And if they say yes, you say, well, then we should talk. If they say no, well, then we talk about sports. They say, well, that's pretty much rejection-free. I anticipate, my expectation is a pretty good, I don't know, response from somebody. Most of them are going to say, hey, tell me more, and then we can talk. The problem is not their will to do something or willpower. The problem is they're choosing the wrong activities. We can just fine-tune these activities for a different intention. Let's do one for closing. Ready? So closing, they're probably saying something, will you please join? And that's going to be a yes, no, win, lose. So they're going to lose a lot of those, and they're going to feel bad. And they say, well, my expectation is going to be bad, so I don't want to close anymore. I'll be like Big Al when he first started, who just talked and talked and talked and never closed and hope they volunteered. And that's a bad plan. But here's the second way, number 2. I could just say, so what's going to be easier for you? And give them an option. They can choose. Well, that's going to be a lot better. I say, what's easier for you? And they're going to say, well, I pick what's easier for me. It's going to be a pleasurable experience. We're going to have good expectations. And we all know how that close goes. So what's going to be easier for you to take a wonderful offer or to keep your life the same? All right. So here's another example. How many people remember the notification principles from a couple of our books? If you don't, the notification principle works like this. We use a little shoe store analogy. And as we all know, the easiest way to put a new thing into somebody's mind is using an analogy or an example or story so they can compare it to something they already know. So we tell people, imagine you had a shoe store. You just bought your shoe store. Would you let your friends and relatives know? Well, of course I would. You might send them a postcard. I just opened a shoe store. I know you don't need shoes today, but sometime in the future, if you need shoes, just remember I have a shoe store. That was it. That's a notification principle. That's pleasurable. People can do that. And wouldn't that be better than saying, just call all your friends, make a list of 1,000 people, and every day we're going to call them while you just get rejection after rejection? Yeah. So let's apply it to make a list. Are you ready? So we tell our new distributor, make a list. Make a list of people that you can contact and attempt to get them to look at your business. People make lists all the time, but they don't call anybody on their list because they call 3 people, get rejected, and then their expectations take over. So they won't even make a list. So we could say this instead. Make a list of people you should notify that you started a business so you won't be embarrassed later because you didn't tell them. That's different, isn't it? You say, if I don't tell somebody I'm in this business and then they find out from a relative or somebody else, it's going to be embarrassing. They say, don't you love me? Didn't you even think of me? So I need to make a list of those people because those are the ones I'll notify that I'm in business. Just changing the intention. So here's the rule. Change the intention, which will change the outcome, and our expectations change at the same time. So the key of expectations is to make sure we have positive expectations because then everything is easy. So we had the book called Be the Top 1%. Do you remember what step number 7 was from this book? So if you can remember, what was step number 7 in the Be the Top 1%? If you can't guess, here's step 7. Was to make our successful activities a habit, which is to find something that we enjoy that's going to be rejection-free and make it a habit that we do it every day and let this habit build our business. So that was step 7. And that's what we want to do here because that bypasses all that negativity of being fearful. So if there's an activity you fear that you don't want to do, say, all right, I need to change my intention, my direction, or the activity to something that is safe so our mind doesn't work against us. So step number 7, make our successful activities a habit. Next week, we're going to be talking about anti-procrastination strategies. And I know a lot of people here say, well, not only is it anti-procrastination for me, but for the people I talk to, they always say things like, I want to think it over, or it's not the right time for me, I need more information, especially the greens. We'll work on that. But this week, we're going to be working on everything that scares us. Say, okay, I understand why it scares me now. Let me tweak the activity to something safe so my mind will predict a good result. And that way I can actually get the job done. Okay, so let's take a look at some homework. Homework number 1 is, if you have this book, please reread 10 shortcuts into the prospect's minds. The reason is, this is where we do our work, inside the prospect's minds. The more we understand the better we'll be. And we'll probably end up knowing much more than the prospects do. Everybody has a brain. Most people don't have any idea how to use it or why it does stuff to them. So if you have the book, it's fascinating reading and it's a lot of fun. If you don't have the book, well, on to homework number 2. That's a decision you make. What activity can we change so we'll have new and positive expectations? So take a look right now. As soon as you hang up from this class, ask yourself, what is the one thing I'm not doing that I need to do to make my business work? And once you identify it, you say, great, I just have to change how I go about it. That's why I'm procrastinating on this activity now, because the way I'm doing it right now gives me bad expectations. All right, homework number 3. Ask a team member who wants to be a leader with me. And you say, well, I asked on my team before and they said no. Okay, but why do we want to ask them again? And the reason is because we might have asked them a month ago or 2 months ago. Stuff happens. People lose their job, or maybe they listen to a motivational CD and just have a really great attitude now. People's situations change. So we always want to keep asking our team members, do you want to be a leader? If you do with me, let's talk. So that's homework number 3. Now you say, but I don't have any team members yet to ask. You can still even ask prospects. Just ask the prospects, say, hey, I'm building this business, becoming a leader. Would you like to be a leader with me? Start there. And that might even begin your prospecting conversation. So those are the 3 homeworks. With that, Keith, let me turn it over to you.
All right, terrific. Once again, everybody, welcome. Thank you so much for interacting throughout today's class. And if you're watching the replay, definitely type these things in, write these things down. And for people that aren't on the masterclass, not quite willing to take that step, don't worry. We're going to do some free Zooms for the entire industry. Make sure to check your email on a Monday, and we'll have that information for you as well. With that, thank you so much, everybody, and look forward to chatting with everybody and looking forward to the homework next week.